Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Agricultural meteorologist Greg Soulje is back with us today on this Friday. And welcome back, Greg.
Well, thank you much there, Sarah. Nice to be back with you. Hopefully, CattleCon was a productive get-together down there for you. And we had a nice get-together yesterday, Thursday, with the Illinois Professional Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. There's an acronym
That's
for
the
you.
title.
There you go. Lots of nice people, smart people down there. Had a good time with them talking weather, kind of like you and I do, each and every Tuesday, Friday, and once a month. And hopefully we'll get a few new viewers into the live stream coming up the middle part of the month as well.
It was quite chilly down in Nashville this week, and a lot of misty rain, just kind of not the best conditions. But of course, we were inside talking to people and finding out what's going on in the cattle sector.
Cool.
So, all right. Well, let's find out what's going on in the weather sector. Greg, over to you.
All righty, Sarah, and a pretty wide range of weather really going on from west to east. If you were to focus on the plains that are the Corn Belt locales, and we'll touch on that in just a second, and a little more rain showing up in parts of some of the drier reaches of Argentina. And the beat goes on in through Brazil with maybe a fewer drier locales based on soil types. We'll touch on that in just a second. There's one of the better visible satellite pictures with the higher sun angle. The satellite's able to pick up earlier in the day, obviously, a little more direct look at the country. And you can see really one weather system, a couple of them actually, one offshore the mid-Atlantic region, another one making its way across the eastern Corn Belt locales, responsible for that little coating of snowfall into parts of northern and eastern Illinois. There's been some freezing rain reports as well north of I-70, and there may be some spots through Ohio and Pennsylvania. Kind of looking at the snow plots right now, they're come up with between 2 and maybe as much as 5 inches of snow with that particular weather system, which is anchored into the northeastern Great Lakes region. You can see a little circulation coming out of the southern Canadian prairie and its low cloud deck, and that is the next round of Arctic air making a way a little more east and south, not making a direct channel into the Corn Belt or the Plain States. So that's good news with livestock and outdoor work in the operations. But wind and cold and another run of just miserable, icky weather, if you put it that way, for the easternmost Corn Belt, back down in the Tennessee Valley, mid-Atlantic region. They're still assessing the cold weather down through Florida. Another run to some frost and freeze all the way into the Florida Panhandle. And there are the jet stream winds in from northwest to southeast in the upper trough, if you will, just offshore of the Outer Banks. Meanwhile, you can see there's weaker wind currents and kind of a little building up, a ridging over the western part of the country, roughly from the divide on westward. It's record and near record setting warmth. Great Falls, Montana, 70 yesterday. Parts of West Texas, cotton and cattle country, close to 80 degrees. Matter of fact, widespread 80-degree weather. So if you're one to escape the nonsense of wintertime across the heartland, that is the place to go. And there's the weather map from this morning with most of the organized moisture making its way through Michigan, out of Indiana, as well as Ohio. And very little going on, and likely to stay that way in the short term from the Missouri River on westward. So another round of unseasonably cold air up aloft. That means gusty winds, snow showers, and flurries, and some accumulations in parts of Ohio. Snow cover continues to get added on to there into the northeast and New England, with a brief spell of some lake effect snow as well into parts of Michigan and the lower lakes region the next couple of days. Temperatures basically back to and returning to seasonal norms. Actually will be up past the 40-degree mark and even pushing close to 50 into the far southwestern reaches of the Corn Belt. That's the eastern flank of some of that warmth over the middle part of the country. Speaking of which, the warmth runs basically from about northeastern Montana to eastern Nebraska. High temperatures up from about 60 into central Montana, 80 across much of Texas. Record highs yesterday, Great Falls, Montana at 70 degrees. Matter of fact, that tied the all-time record warm date for February, down both set back in February with readings in the range of 27-ish. We actually 72 degrees, not 27 in 1932 and 1992. Anyway, the warmth of the southern states has returned. 70 to 80 degree readings to assess the last of any power grid issues across the Tennessee Valley. Hopefully those have wound up and things get back into order with outdoor work and livestock and poultry operations. A little light freeze back into parts of Florida. They're going to continue to have to assess some of those record low temperatures in the mid to upper 20s all the way down into Florida's citrus, the north end, earlier on into the week. There are the high temperatures temperatures for the day today shaded in yellow and orange and red, 40s and 50s into the western and southwestern Corn Belt, 60s and low 70s back up all across much of Big Sky Country. But again, the bottom is going to drop out basically east of the Missouri River and more so in the eastern lakes region all the way down to Florida and the East Coast. Western states, the warmth continues on. It's a double-edged sword. Talked about this at our get-together down in Springfield yesterday. Those peaks across the Rockies and the Cascades are only maybe 30 to 40% of normal. Water equivalency is now well under 10 inches. Should be double and triple that at this point. We've got still too much to go on the official wintertime precipitation season across the West. But again, as we have been talking about La Nina setups, even in its weakening phase, not conducive to getting organized moisture going in the wintertime season. You'll have brief spells, but just think that we're going to go into a drier than usual remainder of wintertime. And as we talked about in our get together yesterday in Springfield, I think that's going to be an area of the country that gets into an early fire season as well, with we think most of the hot dome, hot ridging basically parked in that particular part of the country, a good part of the summertime season. That was part of our spring and summer outlook that we talked about down there in Springfield yesterday as well. On to Argentina. They've had rain in some of the drier reaches, and then back and conversely to that, a little drier into some of the wetter areas, sandier soils of Brazil. But in the meantime, widespread shower activity across western sections. Not much in the way of any significant rain to help things along in Buenos Aires and Santa Fe. Temperatures have been running a few degrees above average with some upper 90s and low 100s. We continue to keep an eye on the general crop health in through Argentina based on upcoming rains there. Meanwhile, through Brazil, moisture has varied in some of the eastern areas. The rest of the country in good shape with rainfall out there. Minas Gerais, the highest totals across that particular part of Brazil. We've got the agricultural areas that are still in need of more rainfall, more consistent rainfall. And we're kind of at a peak hot weather time of the year down there, but also at the same time, some of those spots are beginning to move into the harvest scene. So kind of a trade-off as you would expect late season, even through the Midwest, drier soil types, a little more precarious right now and late season development. Power now, they got about 5% of the soybean harvested. They need a little more rain. Again, much like the double crop areas or late planted beans across the Midwest, they need probably another organized rain to come through there. Rio Grande do Sul, the potential remain generally high, even with some hotter, drier weather over the past week. Rainfall continues to be in relatively good shape where we do get the rainfall. But again, drier soils and some recurring heat out there with upper 90s to low 100s beginning to put a little stress on some of the late planted or grain fill stage varieties of corn in that particular part of Brazil. So the beat goes on, a little drier into parts of Brazil, a little wetter into parts of Argentina, and still not much of a sign to make any major significant dent in markets, at least as it applies to South America going forward. Going forward here this afternoon, a couple of cold fronts on the move, one through the southeastern states, another one making its way out of the Great Lakes region. Some organized snowfall continues into parts of Indiana, Ohio, lower lakes region, and some lake effect snow into southwest Michigan, as well as parts of northwest Indiana. Nothing going on. A little backdoor cool front, and readings may slide for about 36 hours into the plain states, but still remain well above average. We have been getting a little weak weather system offshore of central and southern California. We actually had a little rain down around the San Diego area yesterday, a little sprinkle activity up and through the LA basin this morning, and a couple of wet snowflakes and snow showers south of Tahoe. No big deal otherwise in the moisture department there. Meanwhile, we do get a system to move into the Pacific Northwest, another area of the country, the Cascades, woefully under snowed, we'll put it that way, and diminishing snowpack and runoff potential continuing to go on there. So the rains, at least across the drier reaches, valley locales, Rogue River Basin, Willamette Valley, Pacific Northwest, they'll take the rainfall out there, I'm sure. Out across the plains, you can see a developing warm front, and that's going to trip off a little bit of snow through the upper lakes region. Be a cold Saturday, but again, not as barbaric as we've seen on some of these latest Arctic air intrusions. That will be over the northeast of New England. You can see how the pressure lines are packed. Those are 40-mile-an-hour winds and wind chills heading to 30 and 40 below tomorrow morning into parts of the northeast and New England in particular. That warm front scoots a little farther into the western Corn Belt, but it's a dry setup For Sunday, rain picks up in the Pacific Northwest, a couple of spotty showers in the desert Southwest. So much of the middle part of the country, the Mississippi Valley gets the temperature recovery. Cold today still lingers through Michigan, parts of eastern Indiana and Ohio, into the Northeast and New England as well. And there's the organized moisture, a tenth to quarter inch. So that's going to equate to anywhere between about probably 2 and maybe on the higher side, 5 inches of the snow winds its way out of eastern and southern Ohio, snowing down through Kentucky this morning, and looks like into the Mid-Atlantic region as well. And you can see the system coming ashore into the Pacific Northwest. The only real headlines are going to be the cold and the wind in the Northeast New England, and welcome rain again, SeaTac on southward into coastal sections, far northern coastal sections of Northern California. The drought monitor, and that was another topic of discussion down there with the land appraisers and rural farm managers there in Springfield yesterday, was dryness and drought, and about a foot down below average since the beginning of last year in Sangamon County. That increases to about 15, 16 inches below average into East Central Illinois. And I'm sure there's comparable ranges in those red areas of the eastern Corn Belt locales, central and northeastern Indiana and northwest Ohio. And that was kind of the discussion point. Probably the longest of it is, yes, there's moisture coming. If there's any deviation, as in more cold air, which is what you need to make rainfall in the springtime season, well, that maybe puts the rainfall ledger a little higher than you'd like to see as you're trying to get back out there, get field work, spring planting going, but you're trying to build up the subsoil base for the drier and lack of organized rains later on in the growing season. The old juggling act, which seems to happen each and every year across the Corn Belt, but does some great Q&A on that yesterday. There was a snowpack from back on the 9th of January. For some reason, maybe it's part of the government slowdown or whatever, I don't know. Couldn't get an updated one like this morning for the life of me. Just sat there and spun its wheels. So kind of a very nondescript look at it, but you can still see some lingering snow cover and snowpack into the far northern Delta. Still some snow on the ground. It's been 2 weeks for parts of North Carolina and Virginia, and that's helping to keep temperatures cold, and will get colder as that cold front and Arctic air rushes in over the course of the weekend. Next to 5 days, you can see a little system out through Baja and Old Mexico, lifting to the north and northeast. You can just generally see a flattening out of the steering currents. No real big Arctic air intrusions. Systems that will come out of the California into the central and southern plains, make their way across the Corn Belt locales. But then over probably Thursday to Friday, and more so Friday to Saturday, upper level winds will begin to come back in out of the Canadian prairie. So we do have some colder days to returning. This is not going to be a long-term, long-range thaw. Now, some of the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day charts may differ with me, but I think it's at probably return to more seasonal temperatures over much of the northern and central plains and Corn Belt locales, setting what's going to be, I think, a busy remainder of the month of February. Surface maps and charts, you can see a system coming along with probably some organized rains over Tuesday and Wednesday. Another bubble of cold, high pressure, but seasonal cold. That's it through the northern and eastern plains. Still mild over the high plains areas, and temperatures back to seasonal norms in the eastern Corn Belt locales. Another wind maker and another shot of cold air into the northeast and New England. So no major storms next week. A little prodding down on temperatures, which are getting a little too exuberant running around out there in social media and all that. So we'll bring things back in line to what they ought to be for approaching mid-February across the middle part of the country. And there's the organized rain forecast. And, anytime we bring these mild air masses in, you overrun the cold, soaked or snow grounds with this kind of warm. You actually bring temperatures down a little bit. You bring rain through that column, and sometimes you get these spells of a little freezing rain to start. So that's something that has to be watched out for over relatively cold, soaked and or snow-covered grounds that would be probably northern Missouri, southern Iowa, the central parts of Illinois northward when we do get into the rains, probably Monday night, Tuesday, going out by Wednesday. So looking ahead, dry weather continues on, except for the snow showers in the Great Lakes region, the northeast of New England, with a shot of cold air moving on in. Record-setting warmth will continue on in the Pacific West along the divide. We'll get a little prodding down of temperatures over the plains. They then recover into next week, especially the central and southern plains. And apart from that, just a pretty quiet weather picture where we need moisture, not going to get it. And moisture that does come on by is just going to create maybe some soft ground, some snow melt, some sloppy feedlots, sloppy footing for man and beast going forward across the eastern and southern plains and Corn Belt locales into next week. High temperatures into next week on Monday. Look at the 65-degree, well, at least close to 60-degree weather as far north as the Corn Palace, up into the Nebraska Panhandle, 70s across a wide area of the central and southern plains. Again, drought is worsening again. I didn't spend a lot of time in the central and southern plains, but that is an area that is worsening with regard to drought-related issues. So we'll see when the winter wheat finally breaks dormancy. Probably will need a good drink of water. Still some lingering cold air into the northeast of New England. We see the next prod of and piece of cold air beginning to settle southward over the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes region along about Wednesday, but temperatures are still above average, mid to upper 30s, about 3 or 4 degrees above average over northern parts of Illinois. And then we're kind of getting back into reality temp-wise over many northern and eastern Corn Belt locales, still mild out towards the Black Hills, Big Sky Country, not the 70s, not the 60s, but that's still 15 to 20 above average with lower 50s as far north as the Western Dakotas. I believe it was Rapid City 2 days ago that had a high of 73 degrees. That was a record-setting, all-time record high out there. Maybe that brought people out of the casinos up there at Lee and Deadwood and all that. Anyway, here's the overnight lows, middle part of the week. You can see the more seasonal cold air moving back to the northern plains, and we get back into the realities of February across a wide area of the northern and central plains and Corn Belt locales by the end part of the week. So some colder days ahead, front west to east, jet stream winds. Got to keep an eye on maybe the specter of some freezing rain at times over the central and southern plains, central areas, especially central and southern Corn Belt later in the week. Next 6 to 10 days, kind of the right idea, but the jet is kind of suppressed fairly well to the south of us. So that means there is some cold air source, those red hatch lines where we're dislodging any cold air there, shifting it into the northeastern part of the Atlantic and going to draw it down again out of the Northwest Territories with time, eastern Siberia, and down the front range of the Canadian Rockies. It will take a little while, and that red area dashed across the Pacific means jet stream winds are warming. They're lifting north into the Gulf of Alaska, so would be surprised we put a trough in the southwestern part of the country in the plains. We've got cold air north, warmth over the southern states, and that's usually the right ingredients in February to get winter systems going again. A little too exuberant. I think the updated one will have a different look to it here in the next 6 to 10 days, but for just giggle purposes, that's what the feds were thinking. And the general right idea, maybe a little overdone in California, but they'll take anything. Probably the right idea and systems in that darker green area through the Ohio Valley. That'll be the main storm track going forward, probably a little farther north than that. So a little more moisture, changed back to colder weather, and we still got plenty of winter time to go here, which we will update the rest of the winter, the springtime outlook, some thoughts as well going forward, like we did down in Springfield, coming up on our next live stream on the 18th. You'll be absent for that, will you not? That's what I thought.
I don't know yet. I have to. Oh. I might. You might have another co-host. I'll have to see. I'm traveling that week, but
yes,
I only do 1 week at a time. I don't plan too far out.
Okay.
I'll keep you guessing, but
that's fine. That's fine. I thought last time we talked that you.
I think it might be. It depends what time my flight is. That's what I can't remember.
Okay, all right. Well, it's okay if you want me to do it at the terminal out there at O'Hare. That's fine.
Oh, there we go. You want to do? We've tried that before.
Yeah, that didn't work. The Wi-Fi.
We got it done, but that didn't.
Everyone and their best friend is on the phone out there, understandably so.
So what was your take on the groundhog? I know you got a little different. What'd you say? 30% of the time they're right?
Yeah, we looked it up on our drive back from Springfield, and the groundhog is only correct 35% of the time, as long as in the years he's been doing this, and I don't know how long it's been, because I just like, okay, my retort was, I'm a lot better than that, and I kept driving. So that's all I wanted.
I was going to say, what's your percentage, Greg?
Yeah. I'm easily double that.
Easily double. Okay.
I think so. That's why, when things go off the rails a little bit, I do hear from people, and that's cool. That's good. Keeps you honest in this business.
Very good. Well, we'll touch base with you next week, and have a good weekend, everybody.